Imagine a sunny afternoon, perfect for a bike ride. A young girl decides to enjoy the day at the park, but is never seen again. For over 30 years, this mystery left an entire city in suspense. What really happened to Jennifer Bastian? Today, we will unravel the secrets and revelations of this case that shocked everyone. Stay with us until the end and discover the surprising truth behind this enigma. The birth and childhood of Jennifer Bastian. Jennifer Bastian came into the world on April 15, 1973, in the vibrant city of Chicago. From early on, she was surrounded by the love and affection of her parents and an older sister, with whom she developed a strong emotional bond. The Bastian family later decided to move to Tacoma, a city near Seattle, seeking new opportunities. Jennifer proved to be an active and talented child from a young age. Her interest in sports was notable, particularly excelling in soccer and gymnastics. She not only participated in these activities, but strived to achieve exceptional results in each sport she practiced. Besides sports, Jennifer had a musical gift, often enchanting her family with her piano skills. Jennifer's parents always supported and encouraged her passions. On one of her birthdays, her father gave her something special, a bicycle. This gift awakened a new enthusiasm in Jennifer. She wasn't content with just riding around the city streets. She dreamed of bigger challenges. Upon discovering a major cycling competition, Jennifer became excited about the prospect of competing against professional cyclists. This new ambition led her to dedicate herself intensely to training. During the holidays, Jennifer focused all her energy on preparing for the competition, cycling more than 10 kilometers daily. Her determination was evident, and she found a training companion in a friend who shared the same interest. Together, they took advantage of the large park near home, with a circuit of approximately 8 kilometers, which became the main setting for their training. The disappearance of Michaela Welt. The disappearance of Michaela Welt shook the Tacoma community, occurring just 5 months before Jennifer Bastian's case. On a sunny March afternoon, Michaela, a responsible young girl, took her younger sisters to the local park. After obtaining maternal permission, the girls arrived at the location, but soon realized they had forgotten their snacks. Michaela, always helpful, decided to quickly return home to fetch the food, leaving her sisters in the busy park. What seemed to be a simple round trip turned into a nightmare. Upon returning from the bathroom of a nearby cafe, the younger sisters found only Michaela's bicycle and the snack she had brought. The young girl had disappeared without a trace, triggering a frantic search and a wave of concern in the city. The police immediately initiated a thorough investigation, interviewing witnesses and scouring the park. Conflicting reports emerged about a suspicious man seen in the area, further complicating the case. The search extended into the night, culminating in a disturbing discovery: evidence in a remote area of the park, where a fire was normally lit. This incident not only marked the beginning of a case that would remain unsolved for decades, but also planted the seeds of fear in the community, profoundly altering the residents' perception of safety. Michaela's disappearance would become a dark omen of what was to come, casting a shadow of apprehension over the city that would only intensify with Jennifer Bastian's subsequent disappearance. Jennifer Bastian's tragic day, August 4, 1986, began like any other summer day for Jennifer Bastian, a passionate 13-year-old cyclist. After having lunch with her mother, who was leaving for the night shift, Jennifer planned to meet a friend to train in the local park. The 8-kilometer circuit was her usual training spot, where she prepared for an upcoming cycling competition. However, fate had other plans. Jennifer's friend cancelled at the last minute, but the determined teenager decided not to give up on her training. After a brief conversation with her father, who gave permission for the solo ride, Jennifer left a note for her mother and departed around 2:30 p.m., promising to return before nightfall. The park, vast and largely wooded, was a popular spot among Tacoma residents. That afternoon, several people saw Jennifer cycling, including 3 young people from her school, and to passers-by with whom she briefly chatted about her cycling aspirations. Jennifer's absence was only noticed when her father arrived home around 8:30 p.m. and didn't find her. Worried, he searched for her in the surrounding area and soon contacted his wife. Together, they alerted the police, initiating a search that would extend 4 days and forever change the lives of the Bastian family and the Tacoma community. This seemingly ordinary day became the starting point of a mystery that would persist for decades, challenging investigators and leaving an entire city on high alert. Jennifer's disappearance not only devastated her family, but also intertwined with Michaela Welt's previous case, creating a climate of fear and mistrust that would hover over Tacoma for many years. The anguishing search for Jennifer Bastian's disappearance triggered a massive search operation that mobilized the entire Tacoma community. As soon as the alarm was raised, the police initiated an intensive sweep of the park, facing the challenge of approaching darkness. The vast green space, with its dense nature, transformed into a shadowy labyrinth for the searches. The news spread quickly, and a wave of solidarity took over the city. Volunteers of all ages and backgrounds united with the authorities, forming an improvised task force. Equipped with flashlights and determination, they scoured every inch of the park, shouting Jennifer's name in hope of a response. The authorities spared no efforts. Search dogs were brought in to track Jennifer's scent, while police officers interviewed parkgoers in search of any useful information. The decision to close the park for 3 days demonstrated the seriousness with which the authorities treated the case. Meanwhile, the Bastian family experienced moments of indescribable anguish. Jennifer's mother, advised to remain at home in case her daughter returned, alternated between hope and despair. Jennifer's older sister made emotional appeals to the public, pleading for help in the search. The case gained local media attention and soon became the main topic in Tacoma. Posters with Jennifer's photo were spread throughout the city, and community meetings were organized to coordinate search efforts and offer support to the family. As days passed without news, the atmosphere in the city changed. Fear began to set in, especially considering Michaela Welt's recent disappearance. Parents became more vigilant, restricting their children's freedom. The innocence of a community that once considered itself safe was rapidly eroding. The search for Jennifer was not just a police operation, but a testimony to the strength and unity of a community in the face of adversity. Each new day without answers only strengthened the determination of Tacoma residents to find the young cyclist, transforming the Bastian's personal tragedy into a collective mission of hope and perseverance. The Somber discovery in the park, 24 days after Jennifer Bastian's disappearance, a shocking turn of events occurred in the case. While Jennifer's mother was trying to find some solace in domestic routine, painting the walls of her house, an investigator arrived with news that would change everything. In a remote area of the park, far from Jennifer's usual routes, disturbing objects related to the case were found. The location seemed to have been meticulously prepared, suggesting premeditation on the perpetrator's part. A few meters away, hidden under branches, was Jennifer's bicycle, a discovery that confirmed the community's worst fears. This finding not only solidified the gravity of the situation, but also drew unsettling parallels with Michaela Welt's previous case. The similarities between the two incidents were impossible to ignore, leading investigators to suspect a single criminal operating in the area. The revelation sent shockwaves through Tacoma. What was once a hopeful search for a missing girl now transformed into a full criminal investigation. The community, which had been clinging to hope for a positive outcome, was forced to confront a much darker reality. Authorities intensified their efforts, broadening the scope of the investigation. Forensic experts were called in to meticulously analyze every piece of evidence found, hoping to discover some clue about the aggressor's identity. For the Bastian family, This discovery was a devastating blow. The painful uncertainty of the previous days gave way to deep mourning and a desperate search for answers and justice. The news spread quickly, transforming the community's latent fear into palpable anxiety. Parents doubled their vigilance over their children, and the sense of security that once permeated the city was irrevocably shaken. This somber discovery not only marked a crucial turning point in the investigation, but also permanently altered Tacoma's social fabric. Jennifer Bastian's case ceased to be just a local tragedy and became a symbol of the hidden dangers that can exist even in seemingly safe communities. Initial theories, connected cases. The discovery of Jennifer Bastian's belongings triggered a series of theories among investigators, with one hypothesis quickly gaining strength: the possible connection between her disappearance and that of Michaela Welt, which occurred just 5 months earlier. The similarities between the cases were disturbingly evident and difficult to ignore. Both victims were young girls, disappeared in parks in the same region. Both were with their bicycles at the time of their disappearance, and the incident locations were less than 6 kilometers apart. These coincidences led detectives to seriously consider the possibility of dealing with a single perpetrator. The theory of a serial criminal operating in the Tacoma area sent waves of panic through the community. Residents, already shaken by two disappearances in such a short time, now faced the terrifying possibility of an active predator in their midst. Investigators, driven by this hypothesis, began to meticulously re-examine both cases, looking for patterns, overlapping evidence, and any detail that could confirm their suspicions. Psychological profiles were drawn up, trying to understand the mind behind these heinous acts. Meanwhile, the Bastian and Welt families found themselves united by tragic circumstances. Michaela's mother even visited Jennifer's parents in a gesture of solidarity that, paradoxically, was received with some resistance. The Bastian family, still clinging to hope, was reluctant to accept the gravity of the situation. Local and national media began to draw parallels between the cases, fueling speculation and intensifying public fear. Tacoma, once considered a quiet city, now found itself at the center of a dark mystery that captured the country's attention. This theory of connected cases not only directed the course of investigations in the following years, but also profoundly shaped the collective psyche of the community. The idea of a predator on the loose transformed Tacoma, altering habits, increasing vigilance, and leaving emotional scars that would endure for decades. The hypothesis of interlinked cases would become a central point in the narrative of these disappearances, influencing every step of the investigation and keeping the search for answers alive, even when time seemed to obscure hopes of resolution. The precursor case, the 1970 disappearance. In 1970, a disturbing case shook the Tacoma community, casting a sinister shadow that would persist for decades. A young girl, whose name is not mentioned in the document, mysteriously disappeared, leaving family members and authorities baffled. The case, seemingly unsolvable, took an unexpected turn 3 months after the disappearance, when objects related to the girl were discovered in a wooded area. This macabre discovery triggered a thorough investigation that eventually led investigators to a suspect, David Fiser, a 29-year-old man who worked in a pet store. The connection between Fiser and the victim was established through the girl's love for animals, which led her to frequently visit the store where he worked. Fiser, taking advantage of the child's innocence and enthusiasm, devised a cunning plan. He lured the girl with a story about monkeys that would supposedly arrive at the store soon, which he needed to train. He offered the young girl the opportunity to participate in this training, a proposal she accepted with enthusiasm. The case revealed the criminal's modus operandi. He used the child's genuine interest in animals as bait, creating a trap she couldn't recognize. After the crime, Fiser demonstrated a disturbing level of premeditation, carefully erasing his tracks in the forest where the girl's belongings were found. This dark narrative served as a frightening prelude to the events that would unfold years later with Jennifer Bastian and Michaela Welts. The 1970 case not only established a terrifying precedent in the region, but also provided investigators with valuable insights into the psychological profile of predators who target children, using their interests and passions as tools of manipulation. The story of David Fiser and his heinous crime remained a dark reminder of children's vulnerability and the need for constant vigilance, echoing through the decades and influencing how subsequent cases would be approached by authorities and the Tacoma community. David Fiser's escape, a criminal enigma. The case of David Fiser took an unexpected turn after his initial capture and conviction. Sentenced to prison for his heinous acts, Fiser seemed, at first glance, to be paying for his crimes. However, the penal system, with its nuances and complexities, opened a loophole that Fiser astutely exploited. After 3 years of incarceration, Fiser demonstrated seemingly exemplary behavior. This impeccable conduct, possibly calculated, resulted in a controversial decision: his transfer to a minimum security institution. This new environment, described more as a farm than a traditional prison, offered inmates significantly greater freedom. The institution, with its more relaxed approach to rehabilitation, provided residents with an almost normal life, with few restrictions and minimal supervision. This penal philosophy, although well-intentioned, proved inadequate to contain an individual like Fiser. Taking advantage of the lack of physical barriers and reduced vigilance, Fiser orchestrated his escape. The ease with which he managed to escape raised serious questions about the system's effectiveness and the wisdom of placing criminals convicted of serious crimes in such open environments. Fiser's disappearance triggered a manhunt that would extend 4 years. The authorities, frustrated by the lack of clues, found themselves facing a bewildering void. For 16 long years, Fiser remained a ghost, his whereabouts a mystery that tormented investigators and victims. This escape not only represented a failure of the justice system, but also cast a shadow of fear over the community. The idea that a convicted predator could simply disappear, potentially free to continue his criminal activities, sent shockwaves through society. Fiser's case became a reference point in discussions about penal reform and public safety. It raised crucial questions about the balance between rehabilitation and punishment, and how society deals with criminals considered dangerous. As years passed without a sign of Fiser, theories and speculations proliferated. Some believed he had permanently left the Tacoma area, while others feared he might be operating in the shadows, possibly linked to other unsolved crimes. Fiser's escape not only complicated his own case, but also cast a long shadow over future investigations, including the cases of Jennifer Bastian and Michaela Welts. His story became a grim reminder of the complexities and challenges faced by the criminal justice system protecting society against determined and cunning predators. Years of mystery and frustration. The disappearance of Jennifer Bastian and Michaela Welts left an open wound in the Tacoma community, a scar that refused to heal with the passage of time. As years turned into decades, the mystery surrounding these cases continued to haunt not just the victims' families, but the entire city. Investigators, tireless in their pursuit of justice, explored countless leads and theories. Thousands of potential suspects were investigated, each representing a fleeting hope of resolution. However, each lead that proved fruitless only increased the feeling of frustration and powerlessness. The community, once known for its tranquility, found itself transformed. Fear became a constant companion, altering the social fabric of the city. Parents, now hyper-vigilant, restricted their children's freedom. Parks and recreational areas, once full of laughter and play, became symbols of potential danger. With the advent of DNA technology, new hope emerged. Samples collected decades earlier were re-examined with modern techniques. However, even this promising avenue of investigation initially produced no results. The absence of matches in the DNA database only deepened the mystery. The passage of time brought additional challenges. Potential witnesses moved away or passed away, memories became hazy, and physical evidence deteriorated. Each passing year seemed to diminish the chances of solving the cases, but paradoxically increased the determination of investigators and the community. Conspiracy theories and rumors flourished in the vacuum left by the lack of concrete answers. Some speculated about a network of criminals operating in the area, while others suspected a cover-up. These theories, though unfounded, reflected the community's desperate need to find some sense in a seemingly senseless situation. The families of Jennifer and Michaela lived in an emotional limbo, unable to obtain closure, but reluctant to abandon hope. Birthdays, holidays, and milestones passed, each a painful reminder of interrupted lives and unanswered questions. As the years accumulated, the case became more than just a police investigation. It transformed into an integral part of Tacoma's history and identity. New generations grew up hearing about the cases, the mystery being passed down like a dark, but very real urban legend. DNA breakthrough, two distinct criminals. With the advancement of forensic techniques and the introduction of genetic genealogy, investigators finally made a surprising discovery: Jennifer Bastian's case. The DNA collected from Jennifer's clothes revealed something totally unexpected. It didn't match the DNA from Michaela Welt's case. This discovery indicated that the two cases, which were believed to be linked, actually involved two different criminals. Lindsay Wade, the detective dedicated to the case, was not discouraged by the turn of events. She decided to explore all possibilities offered by genetic genealogy and sought the help of expert Colleen Fitzpatrick. Through DNA databases, the team was able to trace the genealogy and identify possible relatives of the criminals. Although the process was extremely complex and time-consuming, the investigators' persistence began to pay off. Eventually, the concentrated efforts led to the identification of two distinct suspects. First, Robert K.N.M. was identified as responsible for Jennifer Bastian's death. DNA analysis directly connected him to the crime scene, resulting in his arrest and subsequent conviction. Robert, who had an impeccable reputation until then, was a shock to the community that knew him. The identification of Gary Hartman. In 2018, genetic genealogy technology took a crucial turn in the Jennifer Bastian case investigation, allowing investigators to deepen the DNA analysis of old samples. The initial analysis narrowed the search to a specific family that had two brothers living in the same house at the time of the crime. One of these brothers was Gary Hartman, a 66-year-old respected nurse who worked at a local hospital. Investigators set up a surveillance operation to collect a DNA sample from Gary without his knowledge. The opportunity arose when he went to lunch with colleagues at a cafe. During the meal, Gary used a napkin, which was discreetly collected by investigators after he left. The sample was sent to the laboratory, where it was confirmed that Hartman's DNA matched that found at the crime scene 32 years earlier. 40 days after Robert K.N.'s arrest, Gary Hartman was also detained, surprising friends and family who knew him as a respectable person with no criminal history. Despite the damning accusations, Gary denied any involvement in the crime. His trial began in 2022, and DNA evidence was crucial for the conviction. In court, Gary couldn't contain his emotions and apologized to Jennifer's family, but this didn't alter his fate. He was sentenced to 26 years and 6 months in prison. Gary Hartman, at 70 years old, needed help walking during the trial. His lawyer argued that he wasn't fully aware of the gravity of his actions and couldn't comprehend the events that had occurred decades ago. However, These claims were not enough to reduce his sentence. The conclusion of Gary Hartman's trial represented the end of a long and painful investigation, finally bringing a sense of justice to Jennifer Bastian's family and to the community that followed the case over the years. Unraveling the mystery of Michaela, Gary Hartman is identified. Gary Hartman, already known for his involvement in the Jennifer Bastian case, was also identified as the perpetrator of Michaela Welt's death. The DNA evidence and investigative techniques that led to his arrest in Jennifer's case also connected him to Michaela's disappearance. Michaela Welt was approached by Gary Hartman while returning home from a park, where she was with her sisters. Hartman kidnapped and brutally murdered Michaela, leaving the community in shock and searching for answers. Even after his arrest, Hartman denied any involvement, but the DNA evidence was irrefutable. The conclusion of Gary Hartman's trial represented the end of a long and painful investigation, finally bringing a sense of justice to Michaela Welt's family and to the community that followed the case over the years. The final outcome: justice after 3 decades. The resolution of the Jennifer Bastian case came after decades of investigation and technological advances in DNA analysis. After years of frustration and mystery, the victims' families could finally see some justice being done. In 2018, a significant breakthrough occurred when investigators used genetic genealogy to identify those responsible. This technique allowed the DNA collected at the crime scene to be compared with vast genealogical databases, narrowing the search to possible suspects. Eventually, this approach led to the identification of Robert K.N.N. and Gary Hartman as the culprits for crimes committed more than 30 years ago. In 2019, Robert K.N.N. was sentenced to 26 years and 6 months in prison for admitting his involvement. Gary Hartman was arrested in 2018, and despite initially denying his participation, the DNA evidence was irrefutable. During his trial in 2022, he was sentenced to 26 years and 6 months in prison. Just like Robert, the court did not accept arguments that Gary did not understand the gravity of his actions. At the time of his sentencing, Gary expressed remorse and apologized to the victims' families, but this did not alter his fate. The conviction of both criminals brought relief and a sense of justice to the families involved. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment. Your opinion is very important to us. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.